It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 627 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record. I am honored to be joined by my guest on the show today. Joining me is Evan Nisselson. Evan is the general partner at LDV Capital. And in this episode, Evan joins me to talk about the impact of visual technologies on the future of sales and marketing. We're witnessing an explosion in the quantity of visual sensors, cameras, and all aspects of our lives. And Evan predicts that the Internet of Eyes, meaning Internet of Cameras, actually be larger than the Internet of Things. And we'll talk about what that means for marketers and sellers alike, and how these visual technologies will enable levels of personalization in sales and in marketing that really are hard for us to even envision today. It's a fascinating glimpse into the future. You want to be sure you stick around and check it out. If you'd like to see the show notes for this episode, go to andypaul.com/627. Now, friends, I've been mentoring and training sales professionals for years, and one of the most important elements to career success that I've found is making sure you align yourself with a company that develops its employees, values their customers, and has a portfolio of products that can compete with anyone in the market. And with its recent acquisition of Level 3, the new CenturyLink is a world leader in providing cloud, security, real-time communications, hybrid IT, and managed services. So if you want the excitement, challenge, and rewards that come from selling industry-leading services to the enterprise, then visit CenturyLink.com/accelerate. Join their talent community. Once you join, somebody will reach out to you and see if perhaps a career at CenturyLink is a great fit for you. Now, before I talk with Evan, let me remind you that if you haven't signed up already to receive my periodic emails, then you're missing out, because I save some of my best advice about sales, leadership, marketing, relationships, resilience, and character for my subscribers. So visit andypaul.com right now to subscribe. All right, let's get right to it with Evan. Evan, welcome to Accelerate.
Hello, everybody. I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much for the invite.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Have you here. I've been looking forward to this. So, the standard question I have for all my guests, and you're an investor, so you invest in new companies that I'm sure you have a perspective on this. And the question is, what's the single biggest challenge facing sales reps today?
I think the biggest challenge facing sales reps is finding the right customers that need the services that somebody is selling. And it sounds quite obvious, but as you and I have talked before, I mean, the ROI of understanding time commitment from the first email to the first call to conversations, it's really understanding the win-win ROI for the buyer and you, the seller, because there's only a limited time in the day, and it's our most precious resource, not only ours as potentially the seller, but the recipient, whether or not you're an investor or an entrepreneur or a salesperson at a big company selling to potential customers. It really is the ROI of time and value proposition of what you're selling and buying.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And not enough sellers really focus on that. It's saying, look, I have to need to optimize the impact or the value of this particular interaction, even if it's something as simple as an email.
That's right.
Because people are investing some of their time, and people listen to the show know that I believe and talk about all the time is that the heart of sales is this exchange that takes place between the customer and you.
That's
they're
right.
They're going to give you some of their time. What are you giving them in return?
Well, you're hoping that's true. And you're hoping they're going to give you some of the time. And the biggest challenge sometimes with emails is everybody gets many emails a day, some more than others. And I frequently, see emails. And if the ask or the reason why somebody's emailing is not in the at least the second or maybe the first sentence, depending on how well we know each other, long emails are not valuable. Some people feel like they should put everything in an email. But the 2 or 3 points, because unfortunately most people have ADD and just the limited time, as we said earlier in the day, put the ask up front, and then maybe add more detail later on in the email. But even after the signature is what I do. Sometimes it's 3 sentences with an ask, and the more details. If you're interested, there's more below.
Right.
But don't get me lost. Otherwise, I'm never going to read the full email, and it won't get prioritized in my inbox.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. I mean, I've written some books, and I write fairly extensively, and as I know you do too. And it's like, we were trained to write paragraphs and so on. It's like,
right.
Today's paragraph is a sentence.
I think that's right. And it's a short sentence. I mean, sometimes I say a sentence when we have monthly dinner gatherings with entrepreneurs and investors, and I say one sentence to describe what you do. And it's really amazing how people define what a sentence is. But that's for another conversation.
We had our grammar lesson and conjoined sentences and so on. But no, it's true. I think it's a skill that people need to develop, is to become more succinct and precise in their communications. And interestingly, that doesn't mean bad grammar or bad word choice. It just means being precise.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And another way that kind of I've learned over the years to do that is, let's say, if I in an email, I will potentially say, if there's 4 topics, it's very simple just to bold the first word and give a summary of what that, each topic is. And so we can visually quickly scan to where the value add is for the person on the recipient line to make their job easier. And I think most salespeople don't do that. And their real job is to get to the point with what the ask is and build that relationship over time, of which every email, it doesn't need to have an ask, but it should have a goal, whether or not it's saying happy birthday or, hey, I saw great photographs of your family out on vacation. But whatever is the goal, it should be very clear in each email or each call.
Right. All right. Well, enough about email lessons, but people need to pay attention to those. So tell us a little bit about what you do with LDV Capital, and then we'll jump into, because it's going to relate. I want to give that as a preface to the topic we're going to talk about.
Sure. So LDV Capital is a venture capital fund that invests in people building visual technology businesses. And visual technology is any technology that captures, analyzes, monetizes, displays, distributes visual data, which could be medical imaging, satellite imaging, AR, VR, autonomous vehicles, etc. And the reason I focus on this very thesis-driven fund is because I have a background of 18 years as an entrepreneur building 4 different visual technology businesses. And as an anecdote, actually, I started it when I was a young kid as actually a professional photographer and a photo editor and a photo buyer. So my whole life is about visual communications. Yeah,
obviously very, very passionate about that. And so your firm has produced a research report on the visual technologies market. And I wanted to use that sort of the basis of our conversation today because, there are some interesting facts in there that are projections, let's say, in there, and that were very thought-provoking in terms of the impact of visual technologies. And then, to steer the conversation to talk about, okay, if this is what's happening or is going to happen, then what will the impact be for sales, for marketing, for small business owners, whomever is listening to this podcast? Say, what's that going to mean in another 5 years or so? So you produced this report, and I thought one of the interesting sort of projections you had up front is that basically we're going to see a tripling or a little bit over a tripling of the number of cameras that are in use, and we'll define what cameras mean because it's fairly broad definition, within another 5 to 6 years.
That's right. So we did a report, the LDV Capital Insights report this summer, which is a 5-year visual technology market analysis saying that there's going to be at least 45 billion cameras globally by 2022. And our definition of a camera is a lens and a sensor. And what's interesting is when most people historically think about what a camera is, they think about an Nikon or Canon, or a camera you pick up and make a picture. But what's evolved, obviously, is our phones, our smartphones have multiple cameras on it, and they're going to have many more cameras in the future. But even more, this concept of cameras will be everywhere. And one kind of thesis we have is that the Internet of Eyes will be larger than the Internet of Things. And that means that any inanimate object will have a camera on it, and which is interesting.
Yeah.
For example, in your home, your refrigerator, your stove, your doorbell, your security camera. How about in cars coming soon? Autonomous vehicles can't operate without cameras.
Right.
There's going to be at least 25 to 30 cameras, not including radar or LiDAR, outside your car to drive the car, but also inside the car to potentially, for example, use biometrics to understand if you're falling asleep when you're driving to alert you.
Well, those I think Cadillac is selling that now, right?
Exactly. So there are some things that are already happening, and other things over time. It could be if you're drunk, or understand, look at the pupils in your eyes from a camera and understand if you've had too much to drink. And so it's very fascinating where cameras will be. And we look at it not to say we want to invest in the camera companies per se, but we did this research to understand where's the visual data going to be captured. Mm-hmm. Because what's interesting, if you think of it on a human level, about 90% of the data that our brains analyze is visual.
Right.
Going forward, if AI and artificial intelligence is going to be successful to mimic humans and kind of get to that singularity, well, at least 90% of the data that AI analyzes is going to be visual. And so that's why we kind of took a look at, estimating where these cameras are going to be, to think about where the investment opportunities are for building tools that might leverage computer vision, machine learning, and AI to analyze those images. Right. And what's the last point, which is interesting before, I'm sure you have many questions, but the last point is, historically, we make pictures for memories and to communicate. But thinking about these 45 billion cameras in the next 5 years, a majority of the photographs and videos captured will never be seen by a human eye, which really changes the paradigm.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, first of all, I was just sort of thinking, this figure about, let's say, 45 billion cameras. I mean, that's what, between 6 and 7 per person
That's right.
imagers
right.
per person in the world. And I'm sure a lot of people's initial thoughts, especially sort of given our climate, social and political and cultural climate, is thinking, okay, well, gosh, the bulk of those are going to be in security applications and so on. As we're going to be constantly surveilled everywhere we go. But you're not really projecting that the bulk of those are in those types of applications. It's really our handheld phones and so on. But I'm sure some people at some level are saying, well, yeah, but they're all on network. Are we going to get to this sort of 1984 scenario? Or actually, I guess it wasn't 1984. I guess it was Huxley's book was talking about constantly being surveilled 24 hours a day. Is that sort of a concern?
Yeah, I think that, security is obviously a big sector for that. I think we are there. There's always going to be privacy issues. I think, and the question is, I'm sure most people would say, as long as it's helping keeping me safe and other people safe, then I'm going to okay with some of these privacy issues that might be changing or less private. But at the end of the day, I think there's many other situations. For example, what if you have cameras in your mirror in your bathroom that are helping you be more healthy? Yes, they might also be a privacy issue, but I think it's once again, it's a value proposition of what's the benefit to society. And I think net, it's going to be positive benefit to people and society and businesses. If that thermal and or different cameras in your bathroom can say, hey, you really are gaining weight, or hey, you had too much salt, or hey, you can see in your pupils that, XYZ health issue. Some people will be concerned about that, but I think most would say if it's going to help people hopefully live a healthier lives, why not?
Sure. Unless, your HMO mandates that you have that mirror in your bathroom. But
yes, that could be an issue, but there's inherent challenges. Yeah. And that is going to happen. So one of the other issues of, there's new tools that are going to go, that are already in cars, And, I went, interesting story. I went to a rental car and I rented this car and they said, listen, if there might be a box in your car that knows if you're speeding. And so if you get in an accident and you're speeding somewhere, then you're not covered. And what's the interesting thing is that they didn't say it's definitely in the car. They said it might be. And so the perception, actually, even just saying that, they don't even have to put that in the car. It's, that impacted. I was a little more careful, but that's reality.
Oh, it's like having the security company sign in your front yard, even though you don't have a security system.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah, exact same thing. Well, it's savvy on their part. All right, so of these cameras, and you sort of alluded to this point before, is that you project that most of the images that the pictures capture will never be seen by human eye. So what does that mean in terms of what are the applications, that they're being used for that, virtually just for data mining purposes more than anything else?
Yeah, so that's absolutely right. So if you think about the use cases for example, robots, all types of robots. And when we say robots, we include robots in a factory or a automotive or a boat that's autonomously being driven. That's in effect a robot. Mm-hmm. Or drones and others. So think about those cars where the car and the software is what is seeing those images and that visual data in order to drive. And no human needs to see that to tell the car how to drive. So that's kind of the way we look at it. Or an assembly line where there's, hundreds of robots. There will be cameras on the assembly line telling the robot where to go and what piece to attach to what piece of the assembly line, and also security cameras that are photographing the robots to make sure there's no people around there for safety. And those are the examples of the exponential capture of images that will not be seen by a human, unlike historically photographs that are captured by a camera that we make a picture, or that decisive moment of capturing a photograph, or a salesperson, taking pictures of a house that they want to sell. The goal is that the images or video are captured for a human to see, which is going to be the minority of use cases in the future. Still very valuable for business opportunities, but the minority on the whole is all the images that are captured.
Yeah, I think that sort of the bottom line, it seems to be, is that what the research shows is that the vast majority of these new cameras are really, in effect, sensors.
Yeah, they're visual sensors that are capturing, it's imaging rather than photographing. Some people would say, there's a difference between photography and digital imaging. And I kind of semantically put them together. Some say photography is when you're actually creating and photographing somebody for a human to see, and digital imaging and imaging is more for, that for the computers to see. And that's the interesting thing, is that computers are getting smarter and smarter with computer vision, machine learning, and AI to actually, analyze the visual data to bring conclusions. And just like our personal photos, a majority of the photos you take on a vacation are probably not the best. You want 1% of those images are the best and really deliver the story that you're trying to communicate. It's the same thing with millions of hours of images and video captured by a car. There's only a small percentage of those that are going to be the high signal to the noise that will help that car drive. And that's one of the things that are the huge opportunities in any sector when you talk about analyzing visual data.
Yeah, well, you make the point in the report that those who are going to win, you call it the AI war, quote unquote war, but those who are going to win the AI war are those companies that control the connected cameras.
That's right. And as you see recently, in the last year and a half or so, what's really fascinating is this war is really picking up. So, for example, Amazon has added cameras to their
Amazon Key.
And just yesterday, the Amazon Key, which will help the video of delivering boxes into the house, or the Amazon Look that has a camera that will help, hopefully me, buy my, get my next favorite pair of red pants, because that camera on the Look says, hey, you got a rip on your pants, and there's only one more of those in that SKU that you want. One click to purchase. For me, I love that, and so there are many of these use cases. Or in the refrigerator, knowing, I get a certain type of yogurt I have every morning. Why should I have to look to see when I need to order more?
So do we need to talk about the red pants?
We can talk about the red pants. People like talking about it, and it's a fun example.
Is that a trademark of yours?
No, I don't know. I just like red pants. I had misspent youth in Italy, and kind of the burgundy reddish pants are fun. It just livens up the day.
Yeah.
Life is too. You don't want it to be boring.
I remember back when in my youth being outfitted by my mother in a pair of red polyester slacks.
I like those. I want to see that photograph. Can you, see, once again, I ask you about a photograph. It's
that's
all
right.
About visual communications.
I think I have one, but unfortunately, I think it's in black and white. But
I'll see the shade of gray of those polyester pins, but I can visualize it.
That's right. You didn't want to stand too close to an open flame with those. So, all right. So let's sort of to the point for this podcast is let's say, okay, how do we see this affecting sales and marketing? There's the increase in visual technologies, because Watson, I know with IBM, with Watson, has had a project they've talked about, analyzing facial expressions, right? So I guess that's maybe one place to start is we see AI driven apps coming into the sales space. I mean, they're mostly sort of high level, focused like on sales effectiveness at a high level, right? Does analyzing phone calls for keywords and other key parameters they set so that managers can coach their reps. And that's AI, or sales efficiency is taking care of repetitive tasks to free up salespeople to go sell more. But none of these things really focus on the customer. I think with visual technology is what we're saying is, we suddenly get a chance to sort of combine the AI with a focus on the customer, maybe to help the customer make decisions more quickly.
Sure, I think that's right. I mean, in general, marketing is all about delivering a branded message to the customer. And, it's kind of a known fact that images drive more traffic, let's say online, than text.
Right.
And in society, billboards and kind of, the visual marketing of images and a brand association is what drives successful marketing. And so not only is it the type of visual content that you choose, but how does it interact with people? To your point of facial recognition and knowing people walking by a mall or an airport, eventually those signs or digital billboards should change. It's not efficient to have a billboard of a family with kids when there's a lot of single people without kids and families walking by. And so why not be able to change that in real time? So that's been discussed for a long time. And that kind of relates also to our augmented reality and how our surroundings can be more personalized. Some might say, as you mentioned earlier, the privacy of that scares people. But I look at it as more of, if you help me make my life easier and more directed to me, more valuable. The thing I hate about marketing these days is you go online and you see advertisements marketing to me of something I already bought 3 months ago because it tracked me to a site.
Sure.
But that's not valuable. I already bought it. And so how do you kind of get that real time, either sentiment analysis or facial recognition or it's the intent.
Demographic analysis?
All of that, which relates to that kind of, I would assume the goals that Amazon Alexa and the camera there, photographing us for style or fashion or video conferencing, et cetera. The other piece as well, the other companies, the war is, Google announced Google Lens recently, which is basically their camera that you can point at anything in the Pixel phone that will translate what you're seeing either to an address or to a calendar appointment or to something else. So really that marketing has multiple layers because it's leveraging computer vision and AI.
That's fascinating when you think about that. Especially sort of, as you talk about, sort of the augmented reality and the immersive nature of that marketing could take on, is that, we could basically envision a time where most surfaces we walk by on a street could just basically be digital, right?
Yeah, absolutely digital. But also another thing, another layer, a lot of marketing is, some of marketing is recruiting thought leaders and industry leaders or sports celebrities to wear certain clothing. And so even just the other day, I was testing out a new camera phone that you take a picture. I took a picture of somebody's shoes because I liked those shoes, and it popped up, hey, do you want to buy these shoes? So that's a whole nother level of marketing that has never existed before in society. So it's not just that you're marketing content either as an advertisement or commercial or a banner ad. Actually, the physical existence of products is a major form of marketing, which always existed, but the ability to translate that quickly to a purchase is the new opportunity with computer vision.
Or take it a step further, and this obviously is more further out into the future, but basically you could say, okay, we take that to the extent we have digital fabrics, right? So you take a picture of something and of shoes that are red shoes, and they'll come up. Do you want to turn your shoes red?
Right. That's right. That's a whole other level. Absolutely. And that's partially marketing as well. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, from a sales standpoint, I was thinking about this is sort of this first step is, I think this whole, work of, I don't say facial recognition, but sort of a step level below that with the micro expressions, right? So, Paul Ekman at UCSF, who I think has cataloged 10,000 facial expressions, micro expressions, and connect them to emotions. And, you can sort of see this scenario where, increasingly as we use Zoom and other technologies, whatever the replacements are for, face-to-face video conferencing,
yes.
that, you've got your camera sitting there analyzing the micro expressions and saying, well, this is what we think, how this person's really reacting to what you're saying.
That's right. I've seen a couple companies working on that, and I think it's definitely going to be a huge asset. Obviously, the counter to that is that, which people can avoid, but they might not like to use certain applications if they know that they can be tracked in that way. But I think that will not, the positive will outweigh the negative, because even in the reason why people meet face to face or have a video conference is because humans can analyze the other people's expressions and adjust if they're good salespeople. And so your comment of a couple services that might add value to give input to everybody else to help them understand, will that person buy, or when were they confused with the prototype, or were they not watching the prototype? And the prototype or the product or the demo or whatever it might be.
Or when I said these words, which we thought were as our value proposition, they lost focus.
That's right, and that's very valuable. And so what you're saying is there's an example of what do they call the kind of test environments where you bring 20 people in a room and you go through
focus groups, right?
Focus groups, and you go through tests of shows or content creation or advertising. And so what's being done is there are companies, out there that do that analysis, whether or not it's a company called Effectiva or Realize or a couple others, and they are actually enabling content creators or advertising companies to be able to understand when the reactions are positive, negative, or whatever they desire. One of our companies is called T-Vision Insights that does that with a Connect camera in our homes, which basically people get paid to put the cameras in their TV room, and it watches exactly when people are laughing, smiling, sleeping, eating. There's definitely privacy management because it only sends back the ones and zeros to the server. But the ability, historically, tracking companies have only known if somebody's in the room and they click a button. But this actually says exactly at what second during the halftime Super Bowl show did they laugh, cry, or applaud. And that data is extremely valuable and totally changes the kind of marketing and selling ability.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't be valuable in my household because pretty predictably about 30 minutes after my wife and I have dinner, we're both asleep on the couch. It has nothing to do with our interest in what's on the TV. Plus, that's been one of the glories of the DVR is that, we missed that show. Oh, that's okay. We recorded it.
See it some other time. So, that's funny. But obviously everybody, you might last longer in some shows and not in other shows. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think so. But I think that the other thing I was thinking about from the sales perspective is, these are great technologies to use to to enhance our understanding of how our message is being received and processed by potential buyers. But I think there's an equal opportunity for the buyers to use the same technology evaluating the sellers. Is are they telling the truth? Do they know what they're talking about? Am I boring them when I talk? What's their reaction to me when I talk? Are they paying attention? I think in terms of engaging, connecting with people, actually it works both ways.
Right. I think that's right.
And I think that'd be very, very interesting, because I know all the focus is going to be on, hey, I'd use this technology for sellers, but investment advice for you here is look at the one that's going to do it from the customer side. I think that's the winner there.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the customer should be the most important focus always.
Yeah.
There are many technology companies that are pitching a new secret sauce, and unfortunately, frequently companies don't really incorporate the views of the customers first. I mean, obviously, sometimes customers don't really know what the next generation of that they're going to want. But the core value proposition, at least in B2B services, is getting those customers in sooner in order to validate whether or not there's actually a problem to solve.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, I just emailed a good friend who helps look at companies sometimes, and he responded back. He said, "Cool company, not sure there's a problem there." And so that's, and it's from his perspective because he's a technology developer, and the product is marketed to developers. And so that's what I wanted to hear from him, and to hear if it is solving a problem.
Yeah, well, I think that's. I mean, you're in the business as an investor, especially at startup companies, and you know this better than anybody, is that a certain large fraction of those companies they're looking for money, are solutions in chase of a problem.
That's right. Majority of them are.
Yeah.
And that's, but people learn over time.
Yeah. Well, very
and
cool.
Hopefully great podcasts like this will help them avoid some mistakes and do some things well sooner, because then it helps everybody. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, let's hope that it does that. So unfortunately, we've just run out of time. Evan, tell people how they can learn more about what you do and connect with you.
The best way to learn more about us, and you can find that report that we just talked about at ldv.co. And we have an annual vision summit, and would love to hear anybody working on cool technology businesses that solve problems leveraging visual tech, or sales and marketing people that are looking to solve a problem and they want to know if there's something out there.
Yeah, and I think also your summit, it seemed like that you also invite people that sort of have interesting technology ideas, maybe like PhDs doing research, but haven't put it into a company form yet either.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an annual vision summit. It's always in May in New York. There's about 600 people, 80 speakers, 40 sessions, and 2 competitions. And it's a mixture of startups and investors, but it's also, as you say, PhDs, computer vision and AI scientists, and postdocs and professors. And we highlight them, plus big companies like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Qualcomm, and others. But the goal is bringing everybody together to be inspired, to do deals, to recruit, to raise capital, and to learn.
Excellent. Well, good. Well, Evan, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much for the invite, and look forward to finding ways to collaborate.
Yeah, and friends, thank you for joining us today. Make sure you come back, join us for our next great episode of Accelerate. Until then, if you get a chance, go to iTunes. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this podcast. So thanks again for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.